And today is the 7th September, and we are having a MicroProfile technical call. Let me share my screen. Please take the joint responsibility to do the minutes. So we have a few, if you haven't added your name to the minutes doc, please add your name here. So we have quite a few items on this today's call. So the first thing in the MicroProfile 5.0. So finally, all of the spec have done the release candidate. Every spec I have at least RC1 or RC2 and etc. So it's from the API point of view, it looks good. However, today I did a quick dry run with a final local make it a final release to see how the license turn up. However, the license was not is not working correctly. So we expect some Eclipse license and still not showing up a Patty license. So it's have been talking with Roberto. So it's regarding because we changed Roberto helped to move quite a bit to the MicroProfile dash parent. So parent POM. So there's some issue need to be sorted. So with the kind of the license issue being sorted, we would do another release of the parent POM, and then we can release the RC. But at the same time, and Open Liberty is trying to pull in some of the APIs and etc., trying to run them through. So this is the
Emily?
RC. Yes.
Yeah, hi. Is this licensing issue then? Is this new for 5.0 or did this exist in previous releases and we just didn't catch it?
It's a new in 5.3 because in 5.3, we restructured the POM. So basically,
Okay,
previously all the spec have their own POM, so had declared their own dependency and etc. So it's after the 4.0 was released, Roberto create a parent POM. So basically, it's lifted many of the plugins and dependencies to the parent POM. However, the license is not quite working out well.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I thought that's what you said, but I just wanted to clarify it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the asking. Yes, so this is one thing, and then GWT also is the RC1 reviewed a problem with some the test GR was not built, so that has been fixed, but we need to do another release with GWT. Roberto, do you want to say anything?
No, I have no idea what's happening in the parent POM. I haven't looked into it yet, but I'll have a look into that tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, and also is kind of we also I had a look at some Java doc and also the source for some TCKs not quite built well with GWT, so that's that can be easily fixed. So at the moment, the tracking process here. So you can see all the all the RCs if you are interested, and they are all in Maven Central. So feel free to try them out, and also send the email to the mailing list. So I think is all of you, if you have time, and have a look at or the Java doc and the spec doc and etc., and to see whether you have any feedback and etc. So I think at this stage, we just run with this RC and trying to find out whether everything had been done correctly or not. Are there any questions? Okay, so for based on the kind of the feedback from last time, I think from Ed, I want to find out the standalone spec like Jakarta EE alignment status. So at the moment, only context propagation has done Jakarta 9.1 alignment. So all the other, I know LRA is talking about GraphQL also have a different strategy because they would like, they have two options. One is the kind of, they want to do another meta release and then do the Jakarta alignment. So the other option is that they do a Jakarta alignment and then do a release on top of it. So they haven't made a decision yet. And also these reactive specs haven't done anything as yet. I think the current focus is to get this done first. So Edwin, do you want to say the anything? Say the MicroProfile 5.0?
Yes, I do. Yeah. So now we are all. Yeah, we kind of have all the RCs ready. It's time to create also an RC for the platform spec. If we need to update the RCs in the future, that's not a problem. It's a little change. So we can have the bulk of the work already done and in place. So I have asked Emerson to create a PR with the changes, with my support, of course. If he is not willing or able to do it in the next few days, I will do it myself. But this way I try to get Emerson also involved with the release process and as hands-on as possible. So I think we can expect the first PR for this platform release this week somewhere.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I think at this time we start earlier, and then it's kind of we have a longer feedback like a period, and also it's people can like help out as well. So that's great.
Exactly.
Yeah. Are there any questions for the MicroProfile 5.0? Okay, I just add one more thing for the 5.0. So at the moment, Open Liberty is trying to do the binary transformation using Eclipse transformer. And also it's also I work with Roberto on the small right and to see the how to use the transformer to transform small right as well. So it's basically have a couple kind of the options and etc. So that's the kind of the MicroProfile 5.0 from both the spec and also the implementation I mean status. So the next thing is the compatible release process. So this is the kind of David created the PR like 2 weeks ago. It's a pretty quite detailed as a PR. So I think it would be good we use this time to go through the PR and we agree on this process and then like agree on the change and then hopefully we can like make a final decision on this PR. So I reviewed this TCK process. Who else have done the review? Okay.
I haven't, but I'm going to because this apparently got past me. So I will have a look at it.
Okay, thank you, Edwin. So basically, this is a timely kind of process. Basically, it's, I'm going to use this process to create the compatible implementation request for Open Liberty 21008. So basically, I'm going to use this and try it out. So I have kind of the we can go through this the like the PR. First of all, thank you, David. I think this is great. There's just a lot of information. Yeah. So this is a micro TCK process. So it's the first thing is the kind of for TCK release. So I have kind of the basically the other comment here. in MicroProfile, we have we release, we don't have a separate release process for TCK, which is different from Jakarta. So I'm wondering.
There isn't a separate process. Everything's released together on the Jakarta side of the fence as well. It's just that this document talks about the TCK requirements specifically.
Right. So so in here, here is saying user guide, outline, all this. I think all this we cannot software requirement installation. This is all fine. Where to file challenges. I had a quick look at Jakarta over the Jakarta. I didn't see any mentioning about where to file challenges. I'm wondering because the
I can find out for you if you want.
okay, I'll be good, Ed. I had a quick look at CDI TCK. I didn't find it. So
It wasn't in the user guide.
no, there wasn't in the user guide.
Okay, we should probably add that then in the user guides if it's not mentioned. There should
Right.
basically, the intent was that there would be a link to the issue tracker so you could just go there and file the challenge.
Right. Okay. So in the as far as I know, in MicroProfile, we don't have this where to file challenges.
Well, we would need to decide, right?
Yeah. So do we want to? The first thing is, do we want to have this one in the all of the README for MicroProfile? If we do, we need to raise the issue and get it added. So here, where to file challenge is pretty much the same repo as the TCK, lives, right?
Typically, or or it's the specification project repo, or we
Yeah.
don't have specification project repos, but like the health check repo, for example. Is there a
Right.
separate repo for health check TCK? I think it's just the one repo,
That's the
right?
one. Yeah.
Yeah, so it'd just be
Every
that repo. It would just be that repo.
Yeah. So if we say, okay, we need this one, so we need to add a heading to all the spec. So can we just say where to file challenges is just say in the spec repo, or we want to do a hyperlink, if a MicroProfile config we say the hyperlink / issues. So what do we want to do? Or add might find some Jakarta EE examples.
Should we also not describe how those challenges should be processed? Because I guess that just filing a challenge is not enough to say, oh, I don't need to run that particular TCK test. So,
Yep. Do we want to go through this document? Just walk through it
Okay.
top to bottom before
Oh,
we?
how about you walk us through it, David?
Sure. Let me see if I can pull that PR up.
Let me put on the chat if you
Yeah.
don't have the link.
I can always share screen too. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find that.
Let me give you, let me post the link and you can click it. Got it?
Yeah.
Do you
Just here's the link to the PR.
Yeah.
But let me pop open the actual
Okay, add put the where to file challenges. So add, do you have an example of the
Yeah.
spec?
I can share screen if you want.
Yeah,
But
go for
go ahead,
it.
add answer.
Example of a challenge or?
Yeah, example, like a spec use user guide containing where
So
to
it says each of the user guides are supposed to have copied this directly in. And I don't, I guess maybe some of them don't have it, but I will get you a copy of a verbatim from the TCK user guide. Hang on.
I'm ready to share screen if you'd like, Emily.
Let me stop share and you share.
All right.
Go for it, David. Thank you, Ed.
Okay, so I'm doing this. It was a bit ago that I worked on this, so I don't remember all the details off the top of my head, but I will try to walk through it. So high level, the contents are, basically what materials must be in a TCK. What's the process for challenging tests and how are these things resolved? How can TCKs be, how can tests be excluded and how can that be communicated? What's the policy for improving tests for a specification that's already been released? And the self-certification process. So that's the scope of the document, basically. So it's intended to cover all those things. And so I don't know why they don't render this ADOC well, but this is supposed to have sub bullets. But anyway, so it's a lot of the TCK binary must have a user guide, that the user guide must have these bullets should be indented. So let's just do like this because it's actually even easier to read. So yeah, the materials are, you got to have a specification. It's got to be licensed under the EPL or an open source license. We're already doing these things. The specification must have the EFTL license on it. The TCK must have the EFTL license on it. The TCK binaries need to contain a user guide, instructions on how to run it on a compatible implementation. This one is a very Jakarta EE thing. We're not doing this on the MicroProfile side of the fence, so maybe we want to discuss that at some point. But that, the user guides for Jakarta typically have instructions on how to run it on a Glassfish, for example. That's why it's there. So basically it's trying to say that a user must be able to run the TCK on at least one of the implementations that went up for vote. We don't have to have that requirement. We can just, leave it out if we want to. And then there must be a top level README that points to any of these documents right here, right? That points to all this stuff. There are recommendations on what the TCK should include. Recommendations are URL for issue trackers for certification requests and bug reports. It says later that you actually have to have the link of where to file challenges, so that's a requirement. But it's also recommended that you put in there what's the link that I would use to go claim certification. That really probably should be a requirement rather than a recommendation, but it's okay. And then there's additional things that you may want to put in your TCK, such as test coverage, any assertions. The reason that's mentioned is, say, on the Jakarta side of the fence, there are assertion files in the TCK that describe what each test is intending to test, like in some sort of human readable fashion. So, I don't know that we've been doing that on our side of the fence. It's a lot of work, but it can be useful.
The idea of the assertion is to try to make them traceable. Right? So,
right.
So it's not it's trying to make it not an opinion. Is this a compatibility test or is it a functional test? So
right, it's right. The assertions specifically point out the specification and say, hey, this section says you need to do this, so that's what this test is testing.
But you're right. I mean, they're poorly understood and probably difficult
Poorly
to
maintained.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, these two things doesn't exist in MicroProfile. Anyway, this is
Yeah.
optional. So
Yeah, it's listed as may contain.
yeah.
So on the Jakarta side of the fence, we actually have a Jenkins job that the specification committee uses to sign the actual TCK binary with the key pair that's associated with the working group itself. So, you know, right now when we do our releases, we're of course using Maven processes and we're signing that binary with our personal TCK. We're pushing it up to Maven Central, and Maven Central is our mode of distributing the TCKs, and the signature on it is from one of the committers of on a MicroProfile project. That's fine. We can continue to do that. On the Jakarta side of the fence, we don't do that necessarily. We put the link of the TCK binary into the materials that are part of the ballot for the specification itself. And when the specification goes up for vote and passes vote, basically we take that URL of the TCK and we put it into the Jenkins job, and the Jenkins job will download it, sign it with the binary with the key pair that's associated with the working group, and publish the signed binary and the signature to download.eclipse.org/Jakarta EE, somewhere underneath there. And then basically the only things that are in download.eclipse.org/Jakarta EE are officially signed binaries. And so there's never any confusion about, well, I wouldn't say never any confusion, but there's less chance of confusion about which ones are the official TCK binaries, because sometimes there's a lot of these things floating around leading up to releases. And so that's our way of having a very clear delineated line so we can clarify any confusions that might occur definitively. So we don't necessarily have to do that, but if we did want to do it, we would have to build out that process. I wrote all the scripts to do all that stuff on the Jakarta side of the fence, so I'm happy to employ them on our side of the fence if we'd like. But anyway.
So I think for me is a big, because we release API spec TCK under one vote. And then it's kind of the, I kind of think we go with the easy process. So
yeah, I'm fine with that as well. Yeah. This is overhead.
Yeah, exactly.
But we don't release the TCK spec and binaries from the same like repo. They're not all sitting in the same staging repo, for example.
Yeah.
So, you know, it does add complications that this solves. And so we don't necessarily have that issue on the MicroProfile side of the fence. And so if we don't want to do that, we would just delete this section, or rather we would rewrite it. We would say, you need to put your TCK in the staging repo next to the specification. They must be signed by a committer on the MicroProfile project. And we would have to demand that the public key of that committer be somewhere visible so that people could download and verify the binaries.
Right. I think for me, I think we vote to just leave it out, because why we particularly call the TCK out, and we have not called the API and spec out, because they all follow the exactly same process.
Well, the TCK is used by people to actually certify products, make claims, and depending on the policies of the project, being compatible is tied to having patent protection. So it has to be 100% clear what the actual official TCK is. And there really needs to be a way to digitally sign it and for anybody to check that the digital signature is correct. So we would want to mention it, we absolutely do need to mention some form of digitally signed TCK, in my opinion. However that happens is totally fine. It can be with our own keys, but we should have some sort of official stamp on the TCK binary, so there can be no.
So maybe it can call it out if you go to the top, because on the top you already seeing both TCK must contain this one, and then you just add one more bullet, binaries must be signed.
Yeah,
Or
well, we
artifacts.
should definitely have a. We should definitely mention how they should be signed, so all the developers do it the same way, right? So if it's okay, if we're going to say in here that people are going to use their own keys and we're just going to use the Maven signing process, whatever the signing process is for Maven, then we will need to add here that ratifying a final TCK includes that the developer needs to include their public key in the material for the TCK, like in the materials presented during the vote, right? So let's say Roberto does a release of one of the specs, and we're going to have a vote, and he's signed the TCK and the API and the docs and all that stuff, so that it can be published to Maven Central. If none of us has Roberto's public key, it's pointless for it to be signed. No one can verify the signatures. Might as well not be signed at all. So ideally, he would present his public key to us. And we would write it down or put it into a repo somewhere where everyone knows the location that we're storing all the public keys, so that people can actually verify these binaries that we're producing.
So at the moment is we use the Maven GPG plugin, so verify and sign. So it's we have been using it for all the releases. Are you saying we need to use a different method to do it? Or
Nope, it would be the same method, but there's a public key associated with the GPG key. So with digital signatures, you use a private key to create, to sign the binary, and you use a public key to verify that signature. They're yin and yang, they're counterparts. So typically the private key portion is stored securely on either our laptops or in the Jenkins build system. We need to actually go the extra step. So in an additional step, we need to actually export the public key that's being, correlating to the private key, so that people can actually get the public key and then verify the signature that was created by the Maven PGP plugin. So right now, are we doing releases from our laptops? Or are we doing releases from like a Jenkins job?
we're all doing release from Jenkins all the time.
Okay, so there's going to be a public-private key pair on the Jenkins server. We'll need to go and make sure that we've exported the public key and published it somewhere where people can actually see it, so that they can download it and use it to verify the binaries we've published that are signed with the corresponding private key.
Right. Do you know how to do it?
I do.
Right.
So
do you want to get this done?
yeah, I can take a look into it. So we would revise this section to say our process is that things are, once approved, they're on Maven Central and they're signed with the PG, with a different key pair, and here's how you get the public key, or something like that.
Okay, so I have two questions. One is this required by Eclipse Foundation? Is this is mandatory? Is a
It's not, there's not this is up to us.
right? Okay, if it up to us, so how many people think this should be done? And because we have done the release like till now, like we done the 4.0, 4.1 using the under the current process. Do we want to like add this? Do we want to one thing is do we want to stop 5.0 going out before this in place, or do we want to put in the like pipeline and then we get it done? Or when we
I don't think we would need to stop anything. We're already signing the binaries. We just write down what we're doing,
oh okay, I see.
right?
Maybe
So
just write down what we are doing then.
exactly, just to make sure it stays done, right?
Yeah.
You know,
with the addition of being able to verify it
as well.
as well, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So right now we're signing these things, but we haven't actually bothered to export the public key on that Jenkins machine. So no one can actually verify these binaries. So, you know, if we do that, then we'll have completed the circle. And now the world has a way to, if they're concerned about it, confidently download a binary and check it.
Okay, sounds.
And we would just write down what we do.
Okay.
So there'd be no change in process. We would just
Okay.
say that's our process.
So in this case, like we don't need to change our poem at all. So basically,
No.
it's write down our process.
No change at all.
Okay, that's cool.
What we would have to do is, as Ed was saying, we'd have to get onto that Jenkins Jenkins machine, and export that public key from there, and then publish it somewhere, and make sure everyone knows where that location is.
Presumably, eventually, we'll have something similar to the specifications website that the Jakarta EE has.
That would be ideal. I mean, yes, that would be.
I mean,
ideal.
that's where most users get all this, right? So
yeah, that would be the ideal place to publish that. So on the Jakarta side of the fence, we do put the public key link on the specification page. So if we go to Jakarta EE specification, you know, I'll just do CDI because I had that one in my thing. So there's the public key right there. And the public key is actually sitting in a GitHub repo, right? So we just update this. You know, we could grab the public key, stick it into the MicroProfile -WG repo or something like that. You know, because it's sort of an official asset, right? And so, and then they do rotate every couple of years. So we would just keep updating this file with the public key. And yeah, ideally there is a page where you can download the specification, and on that page, the public key is listed.
Right. So at the moment for MicroProfile, we have the releases. So we don't have this page as yet.
We could put the public key on the releases page.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I'm thinking as well. So just put it in there. So so this public key will be the same as the Jakarta.
Oh, it's JWT auth or something like that.
Yeah, JWT-auth.
Okay, well,
Oh, oh no, EE for
I'm in the wrong org. Okay. That auto completed on me. Okay, yeah. So move the Zoom controls out of my way. Okay.
Can you see releases on the right hand side?
Yeah, there it is. 28 releases. All right. So yeah, here we go. Java docs, specification, spec HTML. We could just add another link, public key.
Yeah. So the public
somewhere on this page.
Right. Okay. So the public key eventually need to be put somewhere. The public key is not same as the Jakarta the public key, is it?
Nope, that would be different.
Yeah.
So
So we still need a place to store the public key.
Yeah, I recommend we just check it into the MicroProfile-WG repo somewhere.
Yeah, good idea. I'm also thinking along the same line. At least all the spec we use the same public key.
Yeah, if they're released from the same Jenkins job, they are. Or, you know, like Jenkins instance.
Yeah.
With the check, what it is, you know, for regular projects, I believe that there is one public-private key pair just kind of on the Jenkins instance used by all the projects that, even if they're not even in the MicroProfile, that are doing releases there. So it's sort of like an Eclipse-wide public-private key. For Jakarta EE, we requested a separate public-private key so that it was never possible that, like, say, a project outside Jakarta could do a release that could be confused with a Jakarta release because it was signed by, because the world was expecting it to be signed by this. Anybody at Eclipse can make binaries with this public-private key pair. And so, you know, so we requested our own much more narrow public-private key pair that's only usable by basically by the Jakarta working group. So if MicroProfile is using a public-private key pair that is basically the same public-private key pair as any other project at Eclipse, then all those projects at Eclipse theoretically have the ability to produce something that is appearing as coming from MicroProfile.
Yeah.
So if that's our situation, we may want to just simply request a different key pair to be created for us, which is easy to do.
Okay, I have a quick look. I couldn't see the public key on the Jenkins.
David, you mentioned that when the keys rotate, that you update the public key on so that you replace the old one with a new one, but that means that
you add it to the list. You can have
Okay.
multiple public keys in that
Okay.
file. So
I was confused because I thought you said replace then, because then you cannot verify older signatures anymore, of course.
yeah, good call out. No, we had to append
No.
that new public key to the list.
Okay, no, thanks.
Okay, so it's so David, can you like find out how to get the public key exported? I had a quick look, couldn't figure it
Yep,
out.
I can do that. I have a whole bunch of scripts in the it's in the specification tools repo. So here are all of the releasing things like that, and I've got a script here specifically to do the export. This looks like a typo. That should be export, not expert.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, I thought I had a perfectly good one, but so that is the that's the all this stuff is this is where all the code is to, you know, scripts are to do the releasing stuff, including all the signing. So yeah, I'll put this into the chat, but I'll see if I can dig out specifically the command. Basically, what you have to do is you've got to go into Jenkins and you've got to kick off copy one of your jobs that's doing the signing, because there's a specific setup you need to do to specify what key pair you want to use. So you need to copy all those settings of the Jenkins job, and then you just run a simple export command with PGP, and then you can grab that contents, and then we can paste it into a file in the MicroProfile-WG repo. So in our specification tools, I don't know if it's this one. I think it's specification committee. We've put our public key here. So there it is. And that's and we just link directly to the raw version of this file like that. And then so anybody can just, download this directly with a script and do the verification via script automatic if they wanted to. I don't really know if anybody actually does the verification, but
I did it. It works.
nice.
Is there any private material that we need to keep with this?
The private material is on the Jenkins job of the specification committees in their Jenkins instance. So the private key would never be put into a repo or published in any way. If it was, then anybody could use it to create binaries and
Right.
call them official.
I was just trying to figure out how is there a security? Did
Eclipse
we have to
Foundation
ask for
manages
web?
it.
Yeah, okay. That's
Yeah, we would basically, if we want to have our own public-private key pair, which I do recommend, it's just something that's only usable by MicroProfile. We would just file a ticket in Bugzilla, I believe, is what we did. I don't recall if we actually filed that ticket or if Wayne just tasked the infrastructure people to create it, right? But either way, we would request the foundation to make a public-private key for us, and then we would update our Jenkins job to use that one versus the one that's already there.
Yeah.
Or if we
then-
wanted to continue the one that's there, we would just need to export the one that's.
Yeah.
You were trying to say something, Ed?
Yeah, I was just kind of sorry. I was thinking out loud, concurring with you. I have
Okay.
made some notes in the minutes, so if you can just review them, that everything is correct there, then that would be nice.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, we got 10 minutes left, so let me try to get
Yeah.
through this. So basically, our process for ratification should include some sort of this is the official signature of us, right? So if you want to know if it's something we made, you just check it with our official signature. The challenge process, so it basically says that the specification itself is the truth, not the TCK. So in the instance of a disagreement between the specification and the TCK, the specification wins. So it establishes that. And then it also tries to talk about, who can file a test challenge and what are valid reasons for filing a challenge. So specifically, it calls out that test challenges can only be filed by implementers, right? So, if an implementer is trying to get a test to pass and it doesn't pass, and they don't think that that test is in the spirit of the specification, then they could file a challenge. But if you're like a user using something and you don't like the behavior, and you're not filing a challenge on behalf of an implementation trying to get certified, that's not an appropriate challenge. So challenges need to be for the purposes of certifying a product. So that is one thing. So, it says like valid certifications, claims that a test assertion conflicts with the specification, that's valid. That the assertion requiring claiming that a test asserts something that is not in the specification, right? Like implementation A happens to do this thing that's not defined in the specification, and there's a test that verifies that everybody has to do the same thing that implementation A does. Well, in that situation, there is no actual coverage in the specification for that scenario, so that that test would be invalid. You would have to go make an update of the specification, and that would be adding requirements. You'd have to do that via a new specification released. You know, so there's several good reasons. Bad reasons that you cannot file a challenge are listed as well. So you can't file a challenge saying that that implementation lied about passing a test. That's not a valid challenge. You can't file a challenge saying that the requirements of a specification are bad, wrong, pointless. That is for the specification process itself.
Yeah,
If
I
you
think
don't-
this is
Go ahead.
pretty much common sense. I think.
Well, you know, just it's good to have them all written down. So when people
Yeah,
bring
yeah.
these scenarios up, they don't feel like they're getting an answer custom tailored to them. They feel like, okay, that's the general answer. And we've already covered that that's not valid. And, you know, so it's better to do it. So basically it also spells out that challenges are not ways for people to challenge implementation's ability to have passed a test or not. So the challenge process is not for policing implementers. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't file a challenge against an implementation. You can only file a challenge against the TCK, saying that the TCK doesn't follow the specification. But the challenge process is not to say, hey, that implementation out there, we don't think that they actually passed that test. I'm filing a challenge for it. That's not what it's for.
Yeah. Can we go quickly with this?
Yeah. Okay. The filing a challenge must be done in the issue tracker. You need to list the TCK version you used, all that kind of stuff, and you must have, you know, supporting material. The challenge, the resolution processes are the most ones that we should really talk about. So the resolution process for accepting a challenge are typically done via you know, a lazy, you know, some sort of agreement in the specification project. So we don't have specification projects. We have specification, like, we have just people who work on it. So we need to think about how we're going to come to agreement to say that a challenge is accepted. Right?
So for this one, basically the challenge we raise as an issue, and then also is kind of add a special label, like
Yep.
a challenge. I think is like
That's the label
yeah,
is listed right
the
here.
label. Yeah, and then it's kind of saying like, do we have a minimum period time to say days to say actually is because the lazy consensus, if nobody kind of vote -1, we will say, okay, like 7 days or how many days? What's the minimum time? Do we have a like a
We
minimum?
would want to write that down. You know, if we want to have clear rules, we should probably, you know, write it down. So
So what about
know,
in Catalan? What's how many, or 2 weeks or less?
yeah. So you know, we basically say challenges should be given a high priority because people are trying to certify products, you know, and their release dates are being affected by their ability to get their challenges addressed. And so we don't want challenges sitting for like a month, you know. So basically the recommendation is 2 weeks or less.
Okay, so within basically within these 2 weeks, how can we end early? Like what's the criteria? Like we say, how many +1 do we need to be able to exit? Basically, some spec they don't really want to wait for 2 weeks and to,
right. So that's the homework for all of us, because we're at the top of the meeting. The homework for all of us is, how can we get agreement quickly in a way that we're all happy with, right? And we need to, it could be, I put in the email that I sent out to the list a few ideas on that. One idea could be, you know, there needs to be like 2 or 3+1s, not from the people filing the challenge. So if say, you know, the challenge comes from Tommy, then we wouldn't expect someone from Tommy to be able to approve the challenge, because that would be obviously a conflict of interest. So, you know, getting 2 or 3+1s from other working group members would be enough, in my opinion, to, you know, so we would want to devise some sort of rules where we could do things quickly. On the Jakarta side of the fence, we have spec leads. And so generally all of this text on the Jakarta side of the fence says the fast way is the spec lead approves it. We don't have that here, and I don't think we want to introduce leads. We just probably want some minimal amount of +1s, as you say, Emily, like 2 or 3. And if it gets 2 or 3+1s from people who are not the challenger, then it's approved. Something like that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Maybe it's a way we'll take this to the mailing list conversation.
Yeah.
And
so I started that on the thread. Everybody should think about it, but what this applies to is, you know, we need this process for quick approvals of challenges. We also need this process for quick approval of certification requests, right? So, you know, we have a few approvals that we need to do, right? So we need to approve certifications and we need to approve challenges. And so we need a way to come to agreement with those two things quickly. For compatibility certification approvals, they do get pretty routine. That I've noticed on the Jakarta side of the fence, they kind of come in 2 buckets. One is someone's just done a release, an update release, and they're recertifying, and it's pretty snooze. It's pretty boring, right? They already know the requirements. They've done them several times. They've already had several CCRs approved, and this is just like the 15th one for that product because it's being updated regularly, and they're re-asking for certification. To me, that seems like there could be a fast track of like basically any other committer who isn't them could just go, yep, that looks good. But then there's a different process of a whole new product coming out of nowhere and wanting to get certified and do it really, really quickly. And that seems like that should take a little bit more time. So more people can check to see that they actually have done the process correctly and get a few more eyes on it. Because once they get that first approval, they're unlikely to change their process. And if they didn't get a real good inspection on the first time around, they might be doing things wrong for quite a while.
Yeah. Thank you so much, David. It's reached the top of the hour. By the way,
Yeah.
I'm going to create the compatible implementation for Open Liberty. I'm going to use the process. I will get this started, and then I create a CCR, and then we try to follow the process. And also, basically, we haven't finalized this. I also ask a question, follow up with your email on that thread. If I couldn't find it, I will start a new one to see how can we improve, approve the challenges, or how can we approve the compatible implementation request. We can go from there, and then we come back to it and in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, don't start a new thread. Do try to find it. So the PR is listed in the email, so it should be easily searchable.
Oh, okay, I got it. Yeah, I will. So this is
Just search the PR number or search the PR link, and you'll find it.
Yeah, I found it. Found it already now.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Okay, cool. I will follow up on that, and we can talk more offline. Thank you, everybody. Talk to you next week.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, have a good week, folks. Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah. Have a good week and weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.